Well, hello there. I'm sure some of you may notice that things look a bit different around here. After not posting for a while, I decided it may as well be time to revamp the setup. And what better time than now when I'm finally finding video ideas that I can't wait to share with all of you. Now, if you've seen the title and thumbnail of this video, I'm sure you've noticed it's a little bit different from the content I normally post on here. And well, the reason for that being that this video is actually a school project. This video will act a bit more as a video essay on a topic of agriculture rather than my normal rambling on about whatever I find interesting. So I do hope that you don't mind the switch up before I finally swap back to regular content that you're all used to seeing here on the channel. And well, without further ado, let's get into the video. As mentioned before, this video is on the topic of agriculture, specifically looking at a few key issues seen throughout the world, especially now in modern society. The main one that caught my interest was looking at how restaurants recently provide things like the amount of calories on their menus for each of the items listed. Humans need food to survive. Food gives people the fuel to be active every day. To be healthy and active, humans need to consume a certain amount of energy, which is typically measured in kilocalories and/or calories, to be productive every day. While the UN has created a rough estimate of how many calories each person in a country's population needs to consume to survive, many countries fall well above the recommended around 1,850 calories needed to survive. Some countries, however, do still fall under that. With the US, it's more than doubled the recommended amount of calories consumed every day by the average person. This overconsumption seen around the world is a huge reason why diet and beauty culture has begun to play such a huge role in today's social society. This has caused a huge oppressive mentality towards eating things like carbs that are gained through grain-based products, which sadly is where most of the world does get most of its calories from. Because of this negative mentality towards consumption of calories, a huge surge in diet culture has begun to rise, with people continuing to label foods as good and bad and shame any who seem to eat whatever regardless of what society says you should and shouldn't be eating. This causes people who aren't what society deems as fit to struggle significantly more with their life. They constantly are told to eat better and have to work out to fit into the beauty standard, especially of the Western world. Having things like calories present on menus only helps further this idea of diet culture onto the world. While yes, it is good to know about what all is going into the food that you eat, that should be done to help keep people feeling fed, healthy, and energized. That's why having ingredients listed is important and is required by the FDA to help consumers know what is going in the products that they are buying outside of company bias. However, having things like calories listed do little to help this fact. Knowing the overall amount of calories of what you typically eat can help to make sure that you stay regulated and healthy, yet abuse of this tool has become way too prevalent within our modern society. What should have been used as a way of regulating food consumed daily has turned to a way for society to shame people for eating certain things. This heavily affects why people choose to eat food that could be seen as healthier by society, even though most of the foods aren't what keep people full and feeling energized throughout the day. Overall, people need to eat, and while eating too much or too little isn't good for a person, the constant shaming of people who aren't able to meet an overall standard for what a person should look like causes more harm than good. Beauty standards use things like calorie counts and specific items within food, is twisting what should be tools to aid people to a more abusive way of shaming them who don't fit in. The whole reason agriculture was started was so that people could be fed and be energized. As the human race developed, this idea was put on the back burner. Agriculture was seen as just another daily thing, not something fully needed to survive, as people who physically need to eat foods with a higher amount of qualities are shamed for simply needing to fuel their bodies, unless they are what society deems as already fit and good looking. This mentality that has been developed is incredibly toxic and is never going to help anyone in the long run. People need to eat to keep themselves energized, not to make sure that people look how society wants them to. The overall point of this is that while calorie counts can be useful, especially on things like food that you eat every day, and even if you treat yourself sometimes, it should also be used as a way of making sure that you eat things that'll help you feel good. And I feel like having those calorie counts on menus in restaurants is starting to prohibit what people think they can eat because they want to fit into these beauty standards that society has deemed true. That's the majority of what I think about this whole key issue on how exactly looking at the calorie counts on menus affects both the person's decision and the overall stigma around eating certain things. And with that, I think it's time to look at the finished artwork. I do believe that a whole thing of a video essay is pretty interesting, especially when you do research into it. I hope you all enjoyed this definitely different video than what's normally posted, and I'll see you all next time.